Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, back off of this fast break. Happy to be here with you around the country and the world on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. I am picture in picture with someone that you know all too well, and that is Bob Beretta, St. Bonaventure University VP and Director of Athletics. And he didn't know I had this shirt, but before he went back to his alma mater, I went to Dayton, Ohio for the first four, and I got to be in the locker room with this team and got this shirt on site. My St. Bonaventure Bonnie's shirt that I've had since 2018. And I want to shout out men's basketball, who, after talking with them in the locker room, to have a head coach that I have, a school that I appreciate, and to be able to talk to the coach after and tell him, like, hey, from afar, I've supported the Bonnies. And this was back in 2018. This was 6 years ago. And he put his arm around me and he said, Dan, you're an honorary Bonnie. So, Bob, I don't know, you got some shoes to fill, because I feel like you would say that to me, but I've already been told that I have an open door to the Bonnie family. So I hope that deal still stands.
Of course. Well, welcome to the Bonnie family. Well, you've been part of the Bonnie family for a long time, so that's great to hear. Coach Schmidt took care of you back in 2018. That was a joyful moment for him, I'm sure, and the program here at the St. Bonaventure University.
Well, and I can say this in my experience when I was flying from Syracuse, and I believe I went from Syracuse to Detroit to Dayton, and when I went through that, there were people on the flight that were St. Bonaventure fans, and they were very excited. They were talking, talking through the flight, cheering on the flight, sitting in first class, ready to go. And I'm not saying this because we're picture in picture. I said this years ago before you and I had ever met each other. There was no fan base louder in Dayton, Ohio. Of the 8 teams that were in the first four for the men's Division I NCAA tournament, there was no team louder than the St. Bonaventure fans. They were louder than the Syracuse fans that were there. And the interesting thing is, Dayton and St. Bonnie's play in the same conference. So for St. Bonnie's to go to Dayton and be louder and more, they treated it like it was their home arena. So I just want to shout out the Bonnie's fans, because I still remember them. And one of the women that was on my flight, I was like, you're contagious. Like, if someone's not a Bonnie fan, she was literally like knighting people and to become Bonaventure fans while we were on the plane, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just incredible. The passion for this institution is really unmatched, and in a similar way to Moyne, that you don't find anyone that says a negative thing about Moyne or St. Bonaventure, but the passion around this basketball program is unmatched. It's SEC Big Ten level passion. It's incredible, and I'd say even more so, because people here, when they get a little bit of success, they just feed off of it and want more and more and more. And they really do pride themselves in going into a road arena and taking it over. A few years ago when they made the run to the NIT Final Four down at Madison Square Garden, and I was at Lemoyne. I didn't go down for those games, but they said the Garden was like Riley Center South, and Riley Center is our arena here.
Yeah.
People are passionate. They love their Bonnies, that's for sure.
So I want to ask you about the hashtag for the Bonnies and what it means, what it embodies. What does unfurl mean to the Bonnies?
Yeah, so unfurl is part of the alma mater, and it's unfurl the brown and white. That's one of the lines. So several years ago, the university adopted it as an official hashtag, as unfurl. So when you see unfurl, it's really a reference back to the alma mater, unfurl the brown and white. And Mike Vaccaro, one of the lead columnists in the New York Post, a dear friend of mine, and he'll always talk about after victories, unfurl the brown and white, unfurl the flag. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an official hashtag, and I've kind of adopted it in all my tweets as well with when I put things out on social media.
Well, and I have to say this too, as someone who keeps all hours of the day, it's funny because if I get a text message from you at midnight, to you and I, it's 4 p.m. And so I know you're all about the emojis, the hashtags, getting the information out there. What has how have the Bonnies responded to having a VP and director of athletics that is like yourself, that is so like into it? I mean, when we look at social media, we're thinking like, what students are running this, who's doing this and that, and working on this, or is there somebody within this team that's kind of tasked with that? For you as a leader of an athletic department, you are the one that is constantly, and I saw it at Moyne for years, you're so avid and you want to get everything out. You don't want to leave any message under a rock somewhere. You want all of that to be out there. How have the Bonnies responded to the fact that you have the tenacity and the energy and the desire of someone that's just walked into college? And I mean, to me, Bob, it's like, it's this timeless approach that it doesn't matter what part of the day it is. It doesn't matter how many things you have going on, how many meetings you've been through. You always seem to be on social media showing love and trying to get the message out there.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. I think being present and being passionate, it's easy. It really comes to me just naturally. It's how I was raised in this industry, and it's kind of hard. It would be hard for me to fake that. It's real. It's who I am. And now that I'm back here at my alma mater, it's even more so. I mean, I loved my time at Moyne. Dr. Lemura, the board of trustees, Bob Beretta, Pete DeLaura, Joe Grasso, the leadership there treated me so well. I mean, I loved my time there. I did. And there were very few schools that I would have considered leaving for, and St. Bonaventure was one of them. It's my alma mater, and that's how I answered that question to people when they asked, like, why would you? There's just a special pull when you have a chance to work at your alma mater that I didn't really understand until I got here. You ask how people have received me. I'm going to just share. It's funny you say. I'll share it over my corner here. The book that I'm rereading here now is The Energy Bus by John Gordon, and so I found it pretty ironic that you would bring that up. But yeah, I mean, when you have a passion, it's not like work, So I'm working a lot of hours here now, and I think I've gotten to be very close with our custodian on the third shift. We talk a lot in the evenings, early morning hours. We get things done, and he's working around here at 1 or 2 in the morning, and I scared him a couple times, and now he expects to see me, and he stops in my office, and we have conversations. But I think the fact that I'm an alum, Dan, has really made my transition even smoother than you might think, because there's an instant credibility amongst the people that, hey, he gets it. He's one of us. And this is a unique place here. I will tell you that St. Bonaventure and OAN and the community, it's a special place to me. It really is. But it's not for everybody, nor was West Point. And West Point's not for everybody. I loved it. I mean, I adored it. I loved it. I bought into it. But it's not for everybody. It's very different. And this community, we're removed. We're out here in the southernmost stretches of New York State. There's the nearest major metropolitan area is Buffalo, and it's an hour and a half away. But I love it. I mean, I love Olean. To me, it's built up 5 times over what it was when I was a student athlete here. So when people say there's not much, I'm like, are you kidding me? There's so much more here now than there was 40 years ago. But it's beautiful, and people have accepted me. They've welcomed me back. It's been. For me, it's like a homecoming, and they treated me as such. And the few times that my wife Jen has been able to come up here because she's still in Syracuse right now. She's a grad. We met here on this campus. We started dating here as juniors. So there's an interesting dynamic. I think people have really rallied around us because we're grads, and then. My passion is, who I am, and that's natural for me. Wherever I am, I'd be that way. But the fact that I'm here and I'm able to just display that in a most natural way, I think has been interesting. I'm engaged, as you know. I'm here. I'm everywhere. I just, this weekend out at fall ball competitions when we're not in season, I'm out watching games. I'm around. I travel. I've been on the road. I've seen several of our teams play on the road, and it's just a different engagement level maybe than what they're used to, but that's, as that's kind of who I am, and I want to be around our student athletes. That's the best part of our job is to be out and be present with them and have a presence, right? It's being present and having a presence. And that's been very important to me here.
And I just it is like you said. I do know you to be that way, and it's exciting because it's like it challenges me. It challenges me to go out and do it when, and it also it makes me feel like you're not alone in it, because people would say, you you're at this game, you went to this football game, and then you're at this soccer game, and then you're doing this interview, and then you have these two meetings, then you have an event tonight. How do you do all of it? And I just said, like, I love it, Bob, and you could probably echo me on this, but when I'm laying in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, my mind is going, I got this idea, I want to write this down, I got to put this down, I want to make sure that I set this up for tomorrow, I want to get this on my phone. Like, I don't just I've realized I can't get into bed and go to bed. I get
Right.
into bed and then I think about new ideas, and I want to be creative, and I want to be original and do something that nobody else is doing and put my own stamp on it. And then I want to check on this, and I want to go back to that, and I want to think about that. It's just what we're really describing is when you do what you love and you love what you do, you're not thinking, oh man, I only slept 4 hours. Oh, oh man, nobody else is here. I'm by myself. It's this world. And I think you can, what I'm really trying to say is when you're awake and I'm awake, whether we're down the street from each other or a few hours away, I think when the earth is quiet, I can hear you and you can hear me typing, is what I'm saying.
Well, there's times I'll post stuff late at night or early in the evening or early in the morning, on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll see you may react to it. I'm like, well, Dan's grinding. He's got his midnight oil burning as well. So, but you're right. When you love what you do, it's,
Yeah.
one day it strikes me one day early in my career, and I knew I was in the right field before this, but I was at West Point, and I'd look at the clock and it'd be 5 o'clock, and I'd say, oh my God, I wish it was 8. And there's other people around me that looked at the clock at 8 o'clock and said, oh my God, I wish it was 5. You're either, there was a saying, Coach Cahill said this a long time ago, a former great coach at West Point, and I got to know him, had the honor of knowing him a little bit while I was there. And he said, there are people in West Point and there are people at West Point. Well, I feel it's the same way in this industry. There are people that are in the profession and people that are just kind of at it for a while, and it's
Yeah.
either a job or a career. And it's been a career for me. It's been a life passion for me, as it is for you. And generally, we're blessed that we can say that, because there's not a lot of people in this world that get up for work every morning and can't wait to attack the day. And when the day's over, extend the day into the night, into the morning, and then can't wait to get the next day started.
Yeah, I tell people that I know what day it is based on what segments on my show that day. So
That's right.
that's how I know now. I'm like, did I do the annoying moment of the week? No, then it's Friday.
And it's
So
Friday. Yeah, that's good. That makes sense.
so this is a very important question. Speaking on the fact of always going and loving doing what we love and loving what we do, this is an ever important, very pressing question to me. I know that you've been out for men's and women's soccer. I know you've been out supporting sports in general, but I go to men's and women's soccer to ask you a question that has really been sitting on my mind and weighing on me. Have the opposing fans found you an Olean?
It's a good point. I've been bouncing around, so I haven't necessarily found one place to kind of set. Our structure, our setup is a little bit different here. So sometimes I'm on the field. We had Moyne here last week, so
Yeah.
I actually stood on the sideline and talked to Scott Peterson the entire second half, the trainer, the athletic trainer, who I just have the utmost respect for, just an elite individual and an elite professional. And he and I stood next to each other there. We haven't had a lot of home matches. I've been with some student athletes, so I think I've adopted a new strategy, Dan, and I just try to keep moving here so they can't find me. Because generally, as you know, if I find a seat, there's going to be an opposing parent sitting within 5 feet of me, and that'll be the loudest person in the arena. So I've tried to avoid that at all costs. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I told you, you somehow you were a magnet to the opposing fans, and I was a magnet to the only B in the arena. I'm still a magnet to the only B in the arena. And even when I went to watch a soccer game and was inside of the press box area, I walked into the other room to kind of have some quiet space to myself where you and I at Moyne used to do some of our sit down AD and DTs, and there was two dead wasps and there was something buzzing around, and whenever I went anywhere near to the window it would make a noise because it knows it just something about me, it's
You're
called
right.
to me at all times. So the bees
Yeah,
don't.
and I don't know, given the choice, I might rather get stung than listen to some of those parents from opposing teams, especially when they reacted after goals scored against us. I think I would take I don't know. I'd have to. That'd be a tough choice. But yeah, you're right. You are a bee magnet for sure.
And I still am. So for whatever that's worth, I don't know what I feel like. Honestly, God has like a pen, and it's like it's almost like a beacon, and he just moves the bees around with the pen like you would do something with your screen, and he just kind of looks and he goes, "What's Dan doing? Let's see if he's on his P's and Q's." I feel like he just likes to mess with me a little bit, just keep me
Yeah,
honest. But it's yeah, for whatever
that's
reason.
funny.
But to look at there's a lot of different things that I want to get into with you here at St. Bonaventure now. One of the things that I know is ever important to you and was extremely important to you at Moyne is branding. And I know
Yeah.
that the Bonnies have been, and you see the logo here right next to Bob on the screen, and that logo of having the primary and the secondary and what's going to work. And on these shirts back in 2018, it was a little bit different. So just what you can say about the identification of it. And the secondary part to this is I want to know your thoughts on the branding and the importance of it, because I know that you were unveiling things like right after you got there. And then secondly, when is my St. Bonnie's care package coming?
Good point. We're waiting. We had a bunch of gear ordered that hasn't come in yet. So I know I've been going out and purchasing my own at the local stores here right now. But
Yeah.
I give our staff a tremendous amount of credit. Obviously, this isn't something that takes place overnight, and uh, we announced and released our new brands before I officially started here.
Yeah.
So, people like Ryan Klingen and Barb Cuesta and Seth Johnson really spearheaded that work over the last 18 months. I know what goes into a rebrand. I was part of 3 or 4 of them at West Point, and it's extensive. So they did a tremendous job. Scott Eddy and his team, and Dylan Nuzzo. Just I was really pleased with the rollout. I like our new marks a lot. I think they're clean, they're consistent. We have a primary. We have some peelables that I referred to it. There's some new looks with some Enchanted Mountains references, and anyone that's been on campus understands that better than anyone else because we're right like at Air Force, you look over your shoulder and you have this unbelievable mountain range. And here we have a mountain range that's kind of off our athletic fields. It's very scenic. It's beautiful. So that's part of our mark. But I'm really, I'm a branding guy, and some of the things that we did when we first got to Lemoyne, we've done here. We've implemented even simple things like putting captains' photos on our walls. They're already done. That box is checked. We did that. We did some low-hanging fruit branding that we did at Lemoyne when we first got there. And now what we did was we tasked our staff to do a comprehensive logo audit, because when you do a rebrand, right, you lose track of everywhere the old brand is, and it's everywhere
Yeah.
because it's over time. You just keep adding and adding and adding. It's kind of like compounding interest. So we did this comprehensive logo audit, and now our executive staff got together, and then we made a priority list of what we could attack now, because you have to phase this in. It's just so expensive to do.
Yeah.
You have to phase it in over several years. But our philosophy was to work from the inside of our basketball arena out. So anywhere inside the arena, we're going to attack, and we're in the process now of redeveloping that. And the way we're situated, our offices are all here in the RC in the Riley Center. So our doors that had branding, all of it, anything that was visible to fans when they enter the RC for a basketball game, we need to make sure that's impacted. Our outdoor facilities on scoreboards, and we can't change the turf overnight with our logo, but the next time we install new turf, that'll be addressed. But where we can, signs, video boards, anything of that nature, we're going to attack. And it's going to cost us a significant amount of money, but we have to do it. That's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of our rebrand. And, it's really important to me that we have a consistent look. So we've gone through and attacked some things that we could right now. And we've identified a whole lot that we're in the process of replacing. And hopefully this rebrand that we're undergoing, phase one, will be complete by time we start our basketball season, which is incredible. It's right around the corner. Our first home game is late October here. So it's right around the corner, and we have lots of work to do. But, branding to me is just immensely important.
Yeah, I know how much it means to you, and there's an excitement around that. And again, that big kid energy, so to speak, when you get to see these things come. I mean, I remember you and I were at a game and you're like, hey, you got time to come to the gym? And I want to show you where we're going to put stuff. And like, you would not only bring me to the end product, but you would have stuff on your desk all the time saying like, this is what this is going to look like. This is what I'm hoping for. Here's the different renditions that we can do. What do you think about this? I'm going to put this here. Do you want to move that over there? So with all of the branding, my question comes to you, and like you said, you're one of them, right? You went to St. Bonaventure. You are a forever Bonnie. So my question is, to someone who knows nothing about St. Bonaventure, when I see Bonnies like I have on my shirt, what's a Bonnie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have a great answer for you there. When I went to school, our nickname was the Bonnies, but it was also the Brown Indians. And politically incorrect, it was changed. So we really just go by the Bonnies now. And I think it's just, a reference to St. Bonaventure. And I think back in the 30s and 40s, it became a nickname. One of the reference points to the school is Bonas. You'll see that a lot. People talking about Bonas. And I think it was just kind of an extension of Bonas, the Bonnies. All right, you're Bonas, you're a Bonnie. And that's really what it is. There's no, our mascot is the wolf. I mean, so that doesn't make sense, right? That was part of the rebrand back in the 2000s when they changed the nickname from Brown Indians and just went with Bonnies, and at that time adopted the wolf as the mascot. And there's a reason why. I mean, it ties back to St. Francis of Assisi and how he tamed the wolf. And there's stories with all of the Catholic institutions. There's stories about the mascot, just like the dolphin has immense importance to Moyne through the Jesuits, and the wolf has the same type of importance to the Franciscans here with St. Francis of Assisi. So I don't have a great story for you on Bonnies, other than it's just an extension of Bonas, and we've been the Bonnies forever. And when we rebranded back when I was at West Point, we branded here at Bonaventure, we kind of just went with Bonnies at that point.
And you mentioned West Point a few times here with Bob Beretta, St. Bonaventure University VP and Director of Athletics here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I would imagine that as you support the Bonnies, you still always have your phone charged for the Army West Point football games. And once again, you're at a school that doesn't have a football team, so you don't have to feel guilty. So how is living in the world of St. Bonaventure, and have they become accustomed to the fact that during halftime of a game or a long time out, you seem to be animated and the people going, but there's nothing happening on the field or the court, and they're like, no, he's watching the Black Knights.
Well, Saturday I went to our softball game, and it's non-championship segment. We were playing Canisius, and had my phone and watched Army, cast some glances down on my phone a little bit. Army had that game against Rice well in hand early, so there was no animation there. By the time I got to the softball game, Army was already dominating Rice, so wasn't a problem. We'll see what happens here. As long as the times are staggered, I'm usually safe. It's when a soccer match kicks off at noon and the Army game kicks off at noon, then I'm somewhat distracted. But I mean, I'm blessed, Dan. I had the opportunity to work at my hometown college for 34 years, and that was home for me.
Yeah.
Then when I came back to campus here 2 years ago for the first time in 30 years, I realized that this was home too. This was kind of my spiritual home. And I love my time at Lemoyne, believe me, I do. And I owe, again, I'll say this a million times, I owe President Lemura and Pete, Bob so much gratitude. And I love my time there. Um, but it's just something special about being at your alma mater. And for me, 34 years at West Point, that was a way of life.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to shake that. I will tell you, if Army plays St. Bonaventure, I'll have clear rooting lines. Yeah, that's easy. People asked me even last year when we went down and played Army, who are you going to root for? Oh, that's easy. I work for Lemoyne. And that there's no question. And here it's even more so now because I'm a grad on top of it. So, but yeah, I think you can have passion and love for more than one institution. And for me, I have three now. I have three that I have love and passion for, and Lemoyne is certainly one of them, and St. Bonaventure and Army, West Point are the other two.
And you mentioned Lemoyne. It's how you and I met, and shortly after you started there as the head of the athletic department, and the first time you headed up an athletic department was at Lemoyne College. You and I met when Mary Grimes was being hired at her introductory press conference, and I will forever be grateful. Like you said, you'll always have a connection to Army West Point, you'll always have a connection to Lemoyne, and obviously you have two connections to St. Bonaventure as an alum and now as a leader of their athletic department in your return there. Well, I will always be grateful to Gina Castelli because Gina Castelli introduced us to each other. And the plan that I had in place and the idea that I had for an institution, when I shook your hand, something inside of me was like, you better be ready because you need to present it to this guy and you have to sit down specifically. There's something about this opportunity with Bob, get it right, be prepared, and sit down with him. So I go back to those moments as well. I go back to the first time that we met and shaking your hand, and then all of a sudden it was like a bullet train to where we are today. So for me, I can completely understand your connection to these places and your connection to Lemoyne because, like I've said to you, your fingerprints are on so many things. Your fingerprints are on the fact that there is a press box at the softball field. Your fingerprints are on the renovations that have been done to the baseball field and the fact that there's any type of jersey honoring of these baseball players, and there's plenty to be honored. JoJo Gray and other people in the future, I would hope, are going to have the opportunity, but the fact that there has been a ring of honor, so to speak, a wall of honor, whatever people would like to call it, that was a necessary thing. You saw that. You saw that vision, as well as having bathrooms and a concession stand that is going to be there, rain or shine, at Ted Grant Field and what that can do, to having signage at Ted Grant Field for your corporate partners, as well as for the history of men's and women's lacrosse, the history of men's and women's soccer, to the events and recreation center and what you wanted to see happen with that, to bringing tennis courts and having a track on campus so that those student athletes don't have to travel and so that it's more enticing and so that it really shows a school that was prepared to go to Division One. I've said so many things to you and I've said it to people always, and honestly, Bob, your ears should probably ring every 2 hours. But the reality of it all is when I'm talking with people, I've been in my profession for 20 years. It'll be 21 on November 6th, in November. And we're honoring that on November 16th. But in my 20 plus years of doing this, I have met a ton of people that have told me, you and I are going to do this together. This is what I do. This is what I'm capable of. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. You're one of the only people that I can keep on a single hand that has told me, this is my vision. These are my plans. These are my phases. This is what I have to do. And then I saw you systematically do all of those things. I didn't see you let go of things that you considered important. I didn't see you sometimes show up and then not show up. I didn't see you care about this team and then not care about them if they were losing. I didn't see you hold one coach in a higher regard than another coach. I didn't see you abandon the things that you had told me you wanted to do with softball and Ted Grant Field and baseball. I didn't see you abandon your hopes of different things that you could implement. And I still remember the beginning of the move to Division One when you and I were sitting in your office and you were sitting on my side and you went like you glanced over and you said, see that binder over there? We're opening at least a look at what we can be. And we're going through this. And I still remember that. I remember going into your office and seeing a binder for every single team. There's an organization, there's a care, there's a concern, there's a consistency. And I don't say this to boost an ego. I don't say this to do any of that. I say it in the respect of I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I can only count on one hand how many people looked me in the eye and said, these are my plans. And then not only did they do those plans, but they went beyond those plans. So to me, I know who St. Bonaventure was getting. I know who Lemoyne had. And I think that it's important to state that as you continue on this chapter of your life and you continue to tell the story of your life, that I'm never going to let anybody forget that Lemoyne would not have 95% of what's there if not for you, if not for the coaches and the student athletes that worked tirelessly to get behind that before you were there, while you were there, after you're there. And to speak to Dr. Linda Lemura and the give and take back and forth, to the board, to Pete DeLaura, who is the chair that I got to spend a lot of time with, but everybody that's served there. There's something to be said about a person who is who they say they are. And Bob, you're more than who you say you are. You're more than the vision that you've had. And I count myself blessed that I even have one person that I can look to one hand and say, yeah, if there's nobody else that's kept their word to me about what they're going to do, I can never say nobody, because Bob Beretta always kept his word. And that to me is always going to be your legacy at Lemoyne.
Well, wow. Thanks so much, Dan. You know, I hold you in the highest of esteem as a friend and as a colleague, and so much there. But let me just start by saying that you know, the relationship that we've had and what you've done to amplify our messaging at Lemoyne has been next level. And you know, you were with us every step of the journey from day one, and we needed a partner that helped tell our story, and we couldn't have picked a better partner to tell our story.
Thank you.
In terms of what we were able to accomplish, that none of that happens without an incredible president, without just amazing board chairs and Bob and Pete and that board leadership group and our coaches and staff. I mean, they were outstanding, and we were pretty aggressive while we were there. And I pushed people, and they answered the call, and so I have to give all the credit to them with any successes that we experienced during my tenure. It's because of them. It's not because of me. I mean, I was able to kind of share a vision and try to get people behind it, but they're the ones that did the work. And you know, just an amazing group of coaches. I love them to death. I really miss them. Great people. I love the people here too. But looking back, you know, I really enjoyed my time there, and our coaches are just a group of grinders. Our staff, you know, they got behind all these things that we were implementing, and none of it would have happened without them as well. So, and our student athletes. I mean, ultimately, we're here to serve. We're here to serve our student athletes. We're here to serve our coaches who have the most daily regimen with our student athletes. And, you know, our people bought into that and understood that's what we were there to do. And so it made my time and my work there very easy, because they were doing the heavy lifting. In terms of the consistency, you know, I am a firm believer in being consistent in everything that you do, and particularly as a leader. I think you people want to know what they're getting every day, day in and day out, whether that's attendance at games, whether that's a passion that burns hot all the time, not some of the time, whether that's relationships, whether that's they just, when you're a leader, you need to be consistent. People need to be able to count on you. You need to have a presence. You need to be present and have a presence. I'm a big believer in that. And that passion, you need to treat people the same way when things are going really well for you in your life, and when maybe they're not. And so, I have work to do in those areas, but I try to get better every day, and I do try to be very consistent, and I do try to be extremely present and have a passion for what I do. So, I've been blessed. I've been in places that I've really enjoyed and enjoyed the people that I work with and for, and now I'm back at a place that inculcated all of this in me from when I was a student athlete and really responsible for transforming me and socially, professionally,
Yeah.
and certainly spiritually. So it's for me, it's an opportunity to give back a little bit now to a place that I owe everything to, really. So thank you for the kind words, but really, it was a team effort at Moyne, and just like it's a team effort here at St. Bonaventure, and I have great people. I have an outstanding staff here that really care about this place and really care about the mission of the athletic department. So I'm blessed once again to be around a group of really talented people.
Yeah, and thank you for the words too. Anytime you say anything nice to me, I just hope that I can live up to the words that you give, because they mean a lot, and I hold them to high esteem when they come from you. And I can't say enough about the efforts that you give. So thank you for the words, because it does mean a lot. And you and I are working every single day, and you said it. You went into something that I really wanted to touch on, and that's what it was like for you to walk back into your alma mater. I know you said that with your daughter and your wife, when you came onto campus, when the announcement was made, and when you were honored, that there was this outpouring of love, and there was just this rolling out of the brown carpet, so to speak, and having that appreciation, and I'm sure that touched your heart in a way, probably left you speechless, I would imagine, knowing you. So when you walk in and you meet the staff, when you meet who's inside of the athletic department itself through via communications and auxiliary staff helping out in different areas, as well as the coaches and the student athletes, what was your first impression of this athletic department and this opportunity? Because you ultimately decided to come back, but you told me this wasn't just, oh, it's my alma mater. It's got to be the right fit for you. So when they rolled out the brown carpet, bring me into that moment. And if it did take your speech away for a second, and then secondly, the first impression of the athletic department and the sum of its parts.
Wow, yeah, great question, Dan. I came here for our press conference. The announcement was June 4th, and I came here 4 days later for the press conference, and it was reunion weekend, so it worked out really well from a timing standpoint. And the first thing I asked to do on the day of our press conference is I'd like to meet with the staff beforehand. Before we do anything out public, I'd like a 20-minute session with all of our staff, all of our coaches, all of our staff. Get them in a room if we can. I'd like to introduce myself, because there's perceptions, misperceptions, whatever.
Hmm.
Your reputation precedes you sometimes, and those that didn't look at me still as, hey, here's a guy coming from West Point. Really, I mean, he's been at Lemoyne, but he spent 34 years there, so people immediately have this perception of someone. And hey, West Point had a profound impact on my career. There's no question about it. The ability to think strategically, the ability to organize and provide structure, and all those things were 34 years around some of the finest leaders in the world.
Yeah.
I would hope that maybe some of that small segment rubbed off on me, and I was able to adopt some of those strategies. But to be able to meet our staff was really important to me, so that it wasn't, hey, they're listening to Bob go on a 20-minute acceptance speech and not know him at all. So while they didn't know me that well, but they at least had a 25-minute conversation. And I think that the fact that I'm from Bonaventure, they understand, well, he does get this. Maybe he's different, and maybe he's bringing some of that West Point mentality and how he was at Lemoyne and what things that he did there. But ultimately, they can't question whether I understand the culture, because I'm a product of the culture. So to me, that's been very easy. Whereas sometimes people, oh, he doesn't really understand this. He doesn't understand who we are. Well, I've been away from here for a long time, but I'm a product of this place. So I may be implementing and instituting and introducing new theories, but if I'm going to introduce and implement and talk about new methods of practice, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of the culture here and that it's
Yeah.
going to fit here or that it needs to be implemented or introduced here. So that's been a big part of it. My impressions was it was a very talented staff that have great passion for St. Bonaventure, really wanted someone to come in and lead them, really wanted to have a structure in place, really wanted someone that would be engaged on a daily basis uh, with unbelievable passion for the place. I think I bring that maybe to a fault sometimes, and maybe now 2 months in, some of them are thinking, well, maybe we'd have like to have somebody who's maybe less passionate. But that's who I am,
Yeah.
and I'm one of them. So that barrier or that kind of excuse of hey, well, of dismissiveness doesn't occur here because I'm a product of the student athlete experience. More importantly, I'm a product of the St. Bonaventure student athlete experience. And yeah, my career was shaped and molded professionally at West Point for 34 years. I hope that those best practices would work on any campus. So, the fact that I am a product of St. Bonaventure just helps from an acceptance standpoint. Um, but yeah, the people have been really welcoming. I love our staff. We are blessed. We have a few more people on our staff than we had at Moyne. We worked really hard at Moyne to be very creative because in certain areas maybe we weren't resourced in a way that some other schools might be,
Yeah.
even in the NEC. But our people were taking on 3 and 4 jobs to get things done, and in some cases here, I have people that maybe I didn't have the ability to rely on just in terms of numbers. In terms of numbers, we have some greater numbers here. But yeah, I love our staff. They work hard. They care. They understand St. Bonaventure. They understand that it's very similar to Lemoyne. We're not going to be the most resourced institution in the Atlantic 10. We aren't. I just left last week. I was at athletic director meetings, and there's some people that are resourced at a very different level, but we have to find ways to maximize every asset and every resource that we have. And we have a lot of resources and assets here. It's not, just because you have the most money doesn't guarantee success. Look at some of these football schools that have massive collectives and they're already, you look at their one-loss record 4 weeks into the season and they got more on the right side of the hyphen than on the left side of the hyphen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But for us to act really smart, be creative, be at the forefront of change, look on the horizon, anticipate where this might go in a very turbulent time in athletics. And we're going to be challenged here. But you know how I look at things, challenges are opportunities and opportunities to rally people. And, we had a huge announcement last week bringing, Woj on staff. But that's an example of leveraging our assets. He's an asset, right? And we have, Chris LaPlaca, who ran corporate communications for ESPN for 40 years. He's a graduate of this institution. He's coming here this week, and he's going to give a session to all of our student athletes on personal brand training. Like coming from the leader of ESPN communications department for 40 years.
Yeah.
And we just need to leverage those things and leverage the passion that people hold. That's an energy. That's like rocket fuel. And there's not a lot of institutions that can bottle that and utilize that in a way that we can. So we're going to be really creative. We're going to be on the forefront of change. That was what the Woj hire was all about. He's going to help us in so many different areas. But we need to take risks when there's not a lot of risk, right? I'm a big risk reward guy, and when the risk is minimized and the reward is high, I'm all in. And that's very consistent to our approach at Lemoyne when we decided to transition to Division One. I'm a firm believer that was the right move for the institution. And was there risk? Sure. But did the reward far outweigh the risk? I believe so. And I believe that the things that we'll do here at Bonaventure will weigh risk and reward. And when we take risks, they'll be calculated risks that we feel like the reward is going to be limitless.
Yeah, you spoke about taking calculated risks. I mean, you've only been back to St. Bonaventure for a short time, yet you've made national and I would say international news. Woj is the guy. When it comes to NBA insider breaking stories, I mean, he can probably look when the next time you talk to him, ask him like, "Hey, did you see on X, the former Twitter at Call DT, that literally at all hours of the day reposting all of his messages of who was getting moved and what was going on?" I was like, "Oh, Woj said that. Yep, there you go. Like send it back out, send it back out." Because if it was coming from him, he had that credibility and he's worked so diligently. When I saw that news, I was like, this is the news that shakes the NBA. It shakes ESPN. It shakes the country, that St. Bonaventure gets one of their own, like yourself, to come home, and to the credibility and to the work ethic and to the expertise and the rapport of Woj, and what he brings to St. Bonaventure is something that is absolutely positively going to be not only a flash in the pan, but something that's going to be looked at. I think other schools are going to be looking at this general manager role and seeing how can we copycat this. I think you're going to see other people try to parallel that, not to the extent of a Woj because there's only one of him, but to people trying to understand in this ever-changing climate of realignment and NIL and the transfer portal and all these different things going on in the house settlement. What is basketball going to become? What are intercollegiate sports in general going to become? And how can we be at the forefront? And you just said that passion, that tenacity, and that desire to be at the forefront of change, to not watch the change, but to be the change. And it brings me back to that quote that always comes back of Gandhi: be the change that you want to see in the world. Don't wait for it, become that. So I want to go into this move. Now, in his role as general manager, Woj is going to serve the coaching staff in managing a bunch of different responsibilities, which will include name, image, and likeness, NIL, opportunities, as well as be a liaison, with collectives, transfer portal management, recruit, family and alumni player relationships, professional player programs, and program fundraising. Looking at all of this, I mean, bring me into, well, first and foremost, because whether or not you accept this, because I know you always defer to other people and that's just who you are, but to people around the country and around the world, if they didn't know your name, Bob, they know it now, because they're looking at you as making a monumental deal. Forget the fact that Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year to extend with the Cowboys. Woj coming to St. Bonaventure, that looks like you are the, sorcerer supreme, so to speak. So how did this get done? Bring me through the dominoes. I have to know about the inside of how the insider got back to St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, it's really was an incredible journey to get to where we are today, Dan. So Woj and I have known each other for 35 years, and we did not overlap at Bonas. We were a year apart, but we had a lot of mutual friends. And we actually, the first time we connected and worked together was at West Point. He was a young reporter working for the Waterbury Republic. And we had a pitcher by the name of Steve Reich, and I know this name is going to be familiar to you, Dan, because he's a hero. He's an American hero to me and to all of us. He should be. He was a young man who I was fresh out of college working with the baseball program. I admired tremendously. He's a young man that was drafted by the Orioles and was in spring training. He's a kid that could have played. He would have played at that level. And back then, the Orioles, drafted him, and Uncle Sam came back and said, "Hey, we trained you to be an aviator, and you're out of baseball." And he gave up his professional career. Eventually, he was killed in action. But Woj did a story on Riker when he was at West Point, and we got to know each other. I was the baseball SID, and then of course we reconnected on all of our Bonaventure ties and got to be friendly. And it was a lengthy piece that Woj wrote on Riker, and we stayed a little bit in contact at that point. Woj was in Connecticut. I was at West Point. We had that glue of Riker. And well, you fast forward several years, and Stephen was killed in action. And there's if people have an opportunity, Google his name. Fox did a Vimeo on him that they ran. All the baseball regional sports networks ran it before in their pregame shows on Memorial Weekend, several years ago. There's been stories written about. There's a movie about this one particular mission centered around him and Steve Reich and the Night Stalkers. Well, Woj was with ESPN at the time of Riker's death, and I think, and I'm not sure, but I think I called Woj to tell him that Steven passed. I believe I did. I'm not certain, but regardless, here's Woj now. He's at ESPN. This is pre Woj bomb thing. He's writing at the time, and he uses a national platform to write a column on Steve Reich, and I thought that moved me that he would do that. He could have moved on with his life, and he was just one story of many hundreds that he wrote in his life. But he was so moved by Riker's story that he wrote. So we reconnected then, and then we really just stayed in touch. Matter of fact, when he told me he was going to Yahoo, this is my prescience, right? This is Bob being such a great projector. I said, Woj, this is now back in the late '90s, early 2000s. I forget the timing of it, but I said, Woj, you're leaving the Bergen Record. He was the lead columnist for the Bergen Record, and one of the best writers. He and Mike Vaccaro are two of the best writers I've ever. I just, anytime they write something, I want to read it. And as a lover of great journalism, I didn't want to see Woj go because I was loving him reading all of his columns. I said, Woj, why are you leaving? Did they go to Yahoo Sports, right? Yahoo Sports, and you're going to write about the NBA. Nobody cares about the NBA. Yeah, well, Look what he developed, so there's my expertise. So we stayed in touch, and when all this went down, candidly, he recruited me hard to come to St. Bonaventure when Joe Manhertz resigned. He was sending me some notes when it was about to go down, and I was focused on Lemoyne, to be candid with you. I wasn't going to consider St. Bonaventure. I wasn't. Never applied for the job. I wasn't. But I had so much support from so many alums, and Woj was beating the drum the loudest, I think, for me to come here. And so we reconnected then, and I accepted the position, and we talked a lot. He was very active with our collective. We have a very active collective here, Team Unfurl. Woj was on the board of Team Unfurl. So after I accepted the position, we were talking to each other via text or phone call every other day. And he's in the middle of the NBA championship run, the NBA draft upcoming, NBA free agency. Here's a guy with a lot on his plate, somebody who is the preeminent news-breaking journalist of our time. Like he's completely transformed what that means to be a newsbreaker. But he kept calling me about players. He's watching film on a guy that we might be looking at. And so one day he calls me and says, Bob, we were talking about the GM position because it was being discussed before I got here, and I really didn't know what the status was. I'm like, are we going to add that position? I'm a huge supporter of it, and I think it's something that would help us manage the transfer portal and all these different things, recruits and recruiting, and it's not operations, it's something beyond that.
Yeah.
He calls me and says, hey, Bob, I think tell me if I'm crazy, but I think I'd be a good fit for this position. And I said, no, Woj, no, I'm not going to call you crazy. You'd be a perfect person for this position. Matter of fact, I had told my wife that Jen, hey, Woj would be unbelievable for this role. But he's going to walk away from, if you believe what you read, he just signed an extension and it's very lucrative. And we're not going to be able to pay him anywhere near that. But when he called me and asked me about his interest and if I thought he'd be a fit, it was an obvious answer. I said, of course, but would you be willing to walk away from all this? And he told me that he felt like the time had come. He was feeling kind of burned out from the season. I said, well, listen, let's agree. We both agreed. Take some time. This was before I officially started at St. Bonaventure. There was about a month after I left Lemoyne and before I started at Bonaventure, really the month of July. We were talking throughout that, before that, after I was named, and I said, just take some time, get away. We'll revisit in August. We'll see where you're at, where your mind space is, where your head space is. And but he didn't wait a month or 6 weeks. He continued to call me about players, and I knew it. Initially, he said, well, maybe next year. And then he called back one day, and I had told Jen, my wife, I'm like, he's not going to wait a year. He's ready. And sure enough, he called back and he said, "I'd love to move up the timeline. If you and President Gingrich, our president here, and our board chair here, Michael Hickey, I want to give them tremendous amounts of credit because when I brought this concept to them, they could have said, whoa, that we don't, that's a little scary bringing on a persona like that, a celebrity. But President Gingrich was unbelievably supportive. Michael Hickey, our board chair, unbelievably supportive of this move. And at that point, it was just a matter of Woj saying, I'm absolutely ready to do it. Obviously, his wife Amy needed to be supportive, and she was. We worked through a lot of things in the month of August, and we knew it was going to happen. Uh, it was just a matter of when, and we targeted this time frame.
Yeah.
And a little inside baseball, we were going to release it on Friday, and he called me Wednesday morning and said, "Bob, we need to go. It's going to leak. I'm starting to hear some rumblings here." And so we were prepared. When I talked to our people here last week when I was at the athletic directors meetings down in DC, I told them that, hey, here's the deal, and we need to be ready to roll on this. Here's our timeline, but
Yeah.
we need to be prepared for that timeline moving to the left. And it did. We were able to break it. And, hey, for me, the last thing I would want Woj to happen to Woj, at the respect I have, my friendship with him, um, our now professional relationship as colleagues here at St. Bonaventure, I didn't want his last story to be broken by someone else. That would
Yeah.
have been horrible,
Yeah.
really, to be honest with you. That's not his words, that's mine. So it was on whatever his timeline was going to be, that's what it was going to be. Because if we slowed him up and someone else broke the news,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't have been right for him to go out that way. And it didn't. He broke the news via his final Woj bomb, and it was a bomb, right? It
Yeah.
set off some shock waves. I agree with you. Woj is a global personality. He's
Yeah.
beloved in Germany. You know, they're enamored with him and who he is and what he's done. So he's on our team now, and we're thrilled to have him out there leading the way for us on in the international front and talking to agents and coaches and recruits and parents. He can open so many doors for us. But beyond that, what I'm honestly most excited about are the outcomes he's going to open for our student athletes and our students. He's got such a Rolodex. It's unmatched. It's unmatched in the country.
Yeah.
So if we have a young student that wants to maybe get in a sports management major that wants an internship in the NBA, I'm sure Woj will help us get that person lined up. He had a lot to do with one of our players in a summer tryout this past July. His connections aren't just about bringing players here. They're about positive outcomes for our current students and student athletes, life after Bonas.
Yeah. And I appreciate that background and the telling of the story. I mean, I am I surprised that you've been somewhere for 5 minutes and there's been a giant positive news breaking thing? No, Bob, because I think people call it coincidence when something happens here or there, but when you go places, big things happen in a positive way. And we go back to relationships. Your relationship to Woj's relationship to St. Bonnie's as an alum, your relationship to St. Bonaventure, the connection, the connective tissue of relationships, of going beyond money, of going beyond power and prestige and people taking pictures of you and saying that you're great and followers on social media. The one thing that I tell people will always trump everything else when it comes to professional work and personal work and the lines that bleed between the two is that we will always want to be around people, work with people, connect ourselves to people that we trust, people that we enjoy working with, people that we know the caliber of what they're going to do. Relationships will always win. And I was talking to somebody about this, and we were talking about, and I actually was talking about this with Randy Etzel, a coach that I deeply respect in the football world, and we've become friends over the years. And I said to Randy, I said, NIL, transfer portal, all of this stuff going on, these millions of dollars here and this money, and this person's going to get this deal, and they got this car, and they have this many followers, and this is an influencer and all that stuff. I said, what takes all of that off the table is the one thing that will always, always work is if you are a genuine, caring, trustworthy person who leads with a pure heart and good intentions. You cannot fail. And so this was not a money deal. You weren't a money deal to St. Bonnie's. Woj isn't a money deal. This isn't a prestige. This isn't a look at me, look at me. I think you going back to St. Bonaventure, Woj coming back to St. Bonaventure, and the other things that will happen down the line is a true testament to the fact that St. Bonaventure cares about the building of relationships, and those relationship bridges that were created have sustained, and because they've sustained, we've now seen you walk back on it, and we've now seen Woj walk back on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't belong in the same sentence as Woj, that's for sure. But you're right, Dan. In this is a relationship industry, and I'll argue that life is a relationship industry. But certainly, athletics is relational. Everything about athletics is relational, and with Woj coming back, yeah, I'd like to think that our relationship had something to do with that. Maybe he felt comfortable coming back with an athletic director that he knows really well, and that was one of the conversations that we had. Is people were concerned, like, hey, he's a big. I'm like, hey, Woj and I are really tight. Like, if I need to kick him in the butt, I'm going to kick him in the butt. He knows that. That's part of the deal coming in. If he needs to tell me something, he'll tell me something. We have a great relationship, and I've worked with people that are friends before. I like to consider a lot of the people that I've worked with friends, and sometimes friends have disagreements and tough conversations, and you just work through those things if you have a strong relationship. And one of the things with Woj, with the value that he brings, like, his celebrity is going to fade when you're out of the spotlight, and he does not want to be in the spotlight. This is a support role. It's an entry-level support role behind the scenes. He's already told me, Bob, you need to find a place for me to sit at games where I'm not, like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be found. We have some places for you like that. But, it's a testament to his character and his value set. But that's not what this is about. If he wanted that, he would have stayed at ESPN. He's not coming to Bonaventure to grab the spotlight from our young people, because that's who deserves the spotlight. Not me, not my staff, not coaches. It's our student athletes. And he's here to serve our student athletes in a way that many of us can't because of his relationships with people. So while his celebrity will fade over time, he's not going to be on TV maybe ever again, but certainly not to the extent that he was. So he'll do some interviews and things like that, but he won't have that same battle rhythm or that persona. And in 2 or 3 years, who knows? Young people may not know Woj at all. So his celebrity will fade, but his relationships won't fade. His relationships that he has in the NBA, in the media world. I mean, how many times have you seen competitors go out of their way to laud people like they have to Woj? I mean, he's beloved within the industry.
Yeah.
So the celebrity will fade, but his relationships won't. And we'll leverage those relationships. His relationships with general managers, with head coaches, with assistant coaches, with agents, all those people that can give us insights to young people that we might be thinking about bringing into our family. He can make a phone call and say, hey, we really like this kid. What do you guys know? You had 5 scouts watching him. You've seen interactions with people and parents. Help give us some insight into this young person. So these are the types of things that I don't know if we could have hired anyone else that would have been close to having those types of insights, to bringing that type of information to us. And then on the flip side, to developing those types of outcomes for our young people when they leave Bonas. So 100% agree, it's a relationship industry. Life's a relationship business, but certainly athletics, it's one big network, and no one's got a bigger network. No one's got a bigger Rolodex. I hate to say that because our younger fans, they have no idea what a Rolodex is, but no one's got a bigger network and a bigger contact list on their phone than Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah, and to Woj's credit, I mean, all the work that he's done and what he's become. And I think it's proud, and I'm sure it's surreal for you, like you said, to cross paths with him and to see what he did at Army and the stories that he did and the work that he did. And then you continue your years at Army and he goes to Yahoo and then eventually to ESPN and you're over at Moyne. And now you found your way back together with each other. And in a lot of instances, he probably looks at you and sees that guy back at Army, and you look at him and you see this young reporter. So I feel like God has very, and people say God works in mysterious ways, and I've changed that word out with God works in very purposeful ways. And there's something to be said about the world of sports. And they say this world is tiny. Watch how you treat people, right? And I tell people this all the time. Karma is only mean if you slap her. If you hug Karma, when she comes back around, y'all are having a party together. You're having a good time. So to me, when you see this so many times in sports, it's a full circle. So many times in sports, people come back around. So if you treat people well and you see somebody coming, down, you're walking somewhere and you never thought you'd bump into this person again, and you met in Pennsylvania, but you're down in Florida on vacation at Disney, and here you are walking through the Magic Kingdom, and who's walking right towards you? If you do good things in this world, that's an awesome thing. If you don't, then you jump into the moat by Disney and hope that nobody sees you when you jumped in the water. But for you and Woj, I mean, this has to be surreal, and it has to also tell you that the sports world is tiny, and you really never know, because when he left and you saw his trajectory and then you worked toward what you were trying to do in your life, I'm sure that the both of you thought, yeah, we're friends, but we're never going to work together.
No, you said it so eloquently, Dan. I couldn't agree more. I never thought I'd come back here. I mean, I was involved in a previous search that I had to withdraw, and I was deeply involved back then while I was still at West Point here at Bonas. When that opportunity passed, I felt like, I would never come back. And, I never thought Woj would come back for sure. Here's again, the preeminent journalist in his field.
Yeah.
Elite at what he does, at the top of his game, at the top of his earning power, walking away from all of it to come back to serve his alma mater. And there's a Bonaventure has a very elite list of journalism alumni, and people that have achieved at the highest levels in their field in journalism, and whether that's a Jerry Helper who worked in the NHL for helped found two NHL franchises, and he's the chair of our athletic committee. Was involved in my search here. I've got to be very friendly with Jerry, but he's a guy that was with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Nashville Predators and helped build both of those franchises from the ground. You have Chris LaPlaca, who ran corporate communications for ESPN for 40 years. Tim Bontemps, NBA reporter at the highest level. Mike Vaccaro, the lead columnist from the New York Post. Dan Barry, who's just an incredible journalism for the New York Times, just unbelievable writer. And I can go on and on and on, and I'm just been blessed that I am able to be in that circle with some of these people, and I'm not in that circle because of my journalism skills at all. I just happen to be back here now, and some of them have been friends for many, many years, just because I'm in the athletics industry, and others I'm getting to know a little bit better now in my role as VP and Director of Athletics. But it's a place that is, Miami of Ohio, the coach's cradle. Bonaventure has got a pretty darn esteemed cradle of journalism, journalists and mass communications experts. And I'm proud. I tell people, I'm a product of the athletic department, but I'm a product of the J School. That's the Jandoli School of Journalism here. So they got me twice. And, I'm supporting our young aspiring journalists as well. I was in my office last week with the young lady that broke the news on my predecessor's resignation. She was in my office on Friday afternoon, and we talked, and she told me, I asked her the questions about that, like you're asking me the questions about Woj coming here. I was, hey, this is a young, and she's a reporter in the Syracuse market, by the way, on one of the TV channels there this summer. Her name is Allie Elkins, and she writes for the BV here and does a lot of her on-air stuff for ESPN Plus. But we have these young, aspiring
Yeah.
Woj wannabes, on the camera, off the camera, really talented people. And I want to support them because, again, I'm a product of the J School as much as I'm a product of the baseball program here.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing too. And again, paying it forward and you caring so much about that. And I love hearing those stories. And I'm not surprised that you're having those conversations in your office and trying to build up the future of what's good and honest and hardworking journalism really is. St. Bonaventure University VP and Director of Athletics Bob Beretta here on Wake Up Call. Bob, before we jump into rapid fire, I want to look at the A10. The Atlantic 10, I have, it has forced its way into my life over the years. As a little kid growing up, I remember the first time I ever watched Davidson was Steph Curry. And the Richmond Spiders beating Syracuse when Syracuse was a 2 seed, Richmond was a 15. Loyola Chicago. Is there anybody better than, their mascot? And people know that their mascot is not the Rambler. They know that the true mascot is Sister Jean. And so, I mean, with what she's done and her amazing life, VCU is how I first, had the opportunity to see who Shaka Smart was. UMass growing up and seeing Marcus Camby, and I'm a Toronto Raptors fan. Duquesne, my friend Larissa goes there now, to George Mason and the wins that they've had, St. Joseph's and how they had a really awesome run when I was growing up, going through my high school days, to LaSalle and Fordham and Rhode Island and friendships I built there, to St. Louis and the Billikens and being around them and seeing their campus, to George Washington and the Revolutionaries, and of course to the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. When I speak on the Atlantic 10, because when you were at Moyne trying to find the right conference, trying to see who would be open to you and who you thought was a good fit, and eventually you end up in the NEC in the Northeast Conference. Now when you come to St. Bonaventure, you're in the Atlantic 10. When I think A10, I think who you don't want to play in basketball. And I know that there's so many other sports, and I do want to give credit to where credit is due, because you know that when it comes to me, everybody's on a level playing field. And so at St. Bonaventure, on the women's side, basketball, cross country, lacrosse, soccer, softball, swimming and diving, tennis and track. On the men's side, baseball, basketball, cross country, golf, lacrosse, soccer, swimming and diving, tennis and track, and rugby. I want to give credit to every single one of those programs. When you look at the Atlantic 10, Bob, what are some words that come to mind, some thoughts that come to mind? Because I could tell you that the most of it is expressionary, but if I had to put one, like a word that's hyphened when I think about the Atlantic 10, it would be me watching a game going, on the positive side for the A10 and on the negative side, not the negative side, but the challenging side for whoever's playing them. My best way to describe the Atlantic 10 is me leaning back and going, uh-oh. So what are your thoughts on the A10?
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you just summarized what is an amazing history in this conference. I believe we're going to celebrate the 75th year anniversary of the Atlantic 10 next year. I believe that's the right number, 75th. I think that, or maybe it's 50th. I'm not sure. It might be 50. I think it's 50. But I should know that, so I apologize. But an unbelievable history. You talk about the names that you go back decades and you start reeling off all those unbelievable, and the coaching personalities. When I went here, the people like Calipari and John Chaney and on and on and on. But it's an incredible history. It's an incredibly rich history of success.
Yeah.
Future NBA players, as you mentioned, teams you don't want to play come March. You're watching that bracket and you're like, man, I don't want to be in a matchup with an A10 team, because they may come in as a 10, they may come in as 11, they may come in as a 12, but boy, they're going to come in, and they're going to come in hard, because you have elite coaches with underrated talent and people that just grind.
Yeah.
Basketball junkies, lifers. This is a basketball-centric conference. They make no mistake about it. They say it loud and proud. We are a basketball-centric conference. And boy, they have some history to lean into. I can't wait until the celebration begins next year, because It's you start thinking back to the past of when the conference started as the Eastern Eight, and uh, it is the 50. I said 75, but it is the 50, and it's just incredible, to think back. It was Atlantic 10 when I got to Bonas, but it had been the Eastern Eight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just an unbelievable history, high level, high talent. It's incredible, and you think back to some of those names and some of those coaching rivalries, and the Big East obviously was the mountaintops, but the A10 had its share of peaks as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Very exciting. And like I said, the this T-shirt. I mean, I've been to so many basketball games by the grace of God, doing what I love and loving what I do. But I remember vividly being in Dayton, Ohio, and I remember vividly. I remember saying to myself, "Whatever I do while I'm here, I have to talk to St. Bonaventure. I have to get around the student athletes. I got to be around the coaching staff." And Mark Schmidt, the men's basketball head coach, like I said, when he put his arm around me and I told him, I was like, "I've been watching you guys from afar and I cheer you on all the time." And he put his arm around me and I was in the locker room there in Dayton and he said, "Well, Dan, consider yourself an honorary body now. I think I have the right to do that." And I'll never forget that. So shout out to Coach, and I look forward to hopefully getting to talk with him soon. So Bob, let's jump into rapid fire. You get the first question. You can ask me whatever you want, whenever you're ready.
I'm going to ask you an easy one, I hope, Dan. I want to know what your favorite school in the Atlantic 10 is.
So
You have to get this right.
no,
There's
no,
no gray area here.
well, I mean, I feel like if I'm sitting here wearing this T-shirt and I say something else, people are going to consider me a liar. But I will say, in my life, I have had the opportunity to really see how unique the world is and how these connections are made that you never anticipate, and building a great professional relationship with you, and even more so a brotherhood. I never thought that knowing you was going to be what would connect me to St. Bonaventure. And then for me to turn around and go, "Oh, I got to put this T-shirt on and I got to surprise Bob." So, I mean, when it comes to the Atlantic 10, I hope the best for every team and every sport. But if you want to know what I'm going to be sitting at a bonfire wearing, it's probably going to be a Bonnie's sweatshirt, is what I'd
Like that. That's a great way. It will be, especially after I send you one. Like, you
say.
better be wearing it.
I definitely will. So, my question back to you, Bob, and this is important, and maybe there's only one answer. Who's your favorite broadcaster?
Do I, is there any question? DT, come on. There's no second.
Don't butter me up.
DT, and Woj he's not even under consideration anymore because he's not a broadcaster, so he's not under that. Uh, I've been blessed. My career at West Point, I got to deal with some of the, I don't want to drop names, but I was working with the Army Navy game, and,
Yeah.
and it just the thing that has over the years, I've been blessed with it for the most part. The folks that I've had the great privilege of working with never disappointed me as people.
Yeah.
You hear stories where you look up to someone and they treat you like garbage, and you're like, "Oh, wow, that was disappointing." And the Dick Enbergs of the world, exactly what you'd think Dick Enberg would be. That kind of thing. I got a text just a couple of days ago from Bonnie Bernstein, who I worked with, and maybe the younger people don't remember Bonnie, but Bonnie was Tracy Wolfson before Tracy Wolfson and CBS, and got to work with her, and she sent me a note about the Woj hiring. These people are elite people, and this industry has just blessed me. And then to have a relationship with someone who I respect as much as you, obviously, easy answer, Dan Tortora.
So, yeah, you didn't have to pick me. I was messing with you, but I appreciate your kind words as always. What's your next question for me?
Yeah, my next question for you is: are the Jags gonna make the playoffs this year?
Not right now. the way that they're. I mean, I will say this. It's funny because, and it's really, and you talk about working with good people, and when an organization has them, and when an organization doesn't. And like you said, to not name names, there's a great unfortunate of a caliber of people in an organization, and then when that changes, and so in the not great way. So I mean, when it comes to Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I covered him at Clemson, and obviously covered him in Jacksonville. Sat in the front row most of the time by myself, and wanted the opportunity to talk with him. I've seen him blame himself before, and you know what he did after week 2 is he said, "We suck." You know, this isn't good. This is awful. We got to figure it out. And he didn't mince words. He is a true leader, and you know, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see a team that I've covered for so many years, and to see just the caliber of human being on those teams, and these wonderful people that never got their flowers. I tried to give them their flowers, but you know, Mercedes Lewis didn't get his flowers, and I think in a lot of ways Cam Robinson doesn't because of injuries and whatnot. And I look to guys like Christian Kirk, and I look to Chris Conley, who's not on the team anymore. I look at Chad Muma. I look at Foye Oluwakin. I look at Josh Allen and his humility on that defensive side of the ball for Jacksonville. I look at Roy Robertson Harris. I mean, I could go throughout history. Andre Sisco, Josh Lambo, Riley Patterson, and Blake Bortles, and just name off these people that, you know, and I can get choked up about some of them because I was in that locker room just watching this team bleed. And you hurt for these people when you know the human being. And there was so many people of faith, and you know how important that is to me. And last season and the season before especially, almost every single person in the locker room talked to me about God. And I will never forget this. And I know that, you know, you asked me the question, do I think they're going to make it? I hope they will, but I think it's going to be really hard this year. But I do want to tell this story because you and I care about the bigger things in life, and God at the top of the mountain. And Zay Jones, when he was on the team last year, he looked at me, and they all have these. I mean, the locker room is absolutely beautiful. It's immaculate. It's like being in a movie theater. And you go in there, and everybody has a leather chair, and they have the emblem on it for Jacksonville. And so the guys sit at their chair, and you walk up to them, and Zay looked at me, and he goes, "Pull up a chair." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "You're talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, and we had talked before. He goes, "Go get a chair." He goes, "Bring the chair. Come sit with me. Like, come bring over the chair." So I sit down in the chair, and I'm looking around thinking I'm going to get yelled at because I'm not a player. And I'm sitting in the chair, and I'm talking with Zay, and we're doing a one-on-one. And this other reporter comes up, and he starts asking questions once I'm done talking with Zay. And when I left, Zay's looking at him, but he hit me on the leg and kind of like, "Hey, like, I appreciate you." And I walked away, and I came back, and there was another reporter standing with him, but she wasn't asking any questions. I said, "Zay, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to tell you something." I said, "You offered me a seat today, and I know that your faith is strong and my faith is strong. I know you believe in God and I believe in God. But I want to tell you what you did today." I said, "You didn't know the state of my life. You didn't know the state of my day. You didn't know how I felt." I said, "I have a knee injury. The knee injury acted up." I said, "I was going through a lot today. I was frustrated. My knee was bothering me, and I was really annoyed by it. You looked at me not knowing any of that, and you said, 'Pull up a chair.' You offered me a seat, and you offered me a place to rest, not knowing how I felt. So when you and I talk about God, and you talk about making an impact, and you never really know," I said, "I just want you to know that you did something today, not because I was in pain, not because you saw something wrong, but out of the goodness and kindness of your heart. And that goodness that you had within you ended up helping me in a way that you didn't even know you were doing." And he touched his heart, and he said, "Bro, for real?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That got me." So whatever I've been able to do with Jacksonville, I thank God that my relationships with the players, I would hope, would supersede anything else.
Yeah, fantastic. That's awesome.
My last question to you, Bob. Well, actually, I'm going to have two questions for you because I don't think I ever asked you this one. But I want to know if you could only eat one breakfast, one dinner, and one breakfast, one lunch, one dinner for the rest of your life. They're all different, but you have to always have this breakfast, always have this lunch, always have this dinner. You and I have broken bread together, so I think it's a fitting question. What is
Hmm.
the breakfast, lunch, and dinner of Bob Beretta from now until forever?
Great question. Great question. I can answer it pretty easily.
Okay.
Um, breakfast. I love breakfast. I try not to eat it too much because I overindulge in breakfast, but I would just love a big cheese and bacon and sausage omelet. Um, and if the omelet had, a little bagel sandwich there from Bruegger's, maybe, on that'd be good too.
I like it.
Um, for lunch, I'm pitching potential sponsors here for you in your backyard, Dan. But big Brooklyn pickle fan. But I am a big I'm a big DeBella's fan in terms of I love their Italian sub.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just give me the Italian mix, no condiments, a little bit of provolone cheese and lots of salami on a hard roll. I'm in. I'm in all day long. That's one of my favorite meals. And then for dinner, hey, I could go easy and say I eat cheeseburgers, bacon cheeseburger every night. I could, but the meal that I would eat night after night, too,
Yeah.
both my mother's Italian dishes. She's immigrated from Italy when she was 17, so it's hardcore gnocchi that she makes, which is incredible, and polenta, and potato polenta with sausage and salami and cheese mixed in. Chef's kiss.
I love it. I absolutely love that. And
Well, I got
you,
to ask you the same. I'm not sure if I get another question, but now
yeah, you
you
do.
you piqued my interest because we've never had that conversation either.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say for breakfast. So I'm gonna say two things. I'm an omelet guy, and I'm a breakfast sandwich guy. And I have my own breakfast sandwich at Mother's Cupboard, which I love. Bacon, egg, and cheese inside of two pieces of French toast. It's called the Q-Smack Mother. And thank you to everybody that's gotten it because apparently it's been insane. The owner tells me all the time that people love it, so I'm happy that you all do. But and it, I'm very grateful that one person would order that. So thank you to God for that because don't know how I deserve any of that, but I'm happy you guys like it. And so what I would say is I would say a ham and cheese omelet, the ham and cheese and broccoli from Mother's Cupboard, and when I was a kid from Anna Maria's. She had, and they do the thin sliced, I don't like the cube ham, the thin sliced ham and cut it up. Anna Maria's growing up as a kid, absolutely incredible. And Anna Maria worked there, and she would walk, and she had these lollipops that I never saw in any other place. To this day, I've never seen the flavors, I've never seen the look of them anywhere else. And she's, this little Italian woman, and she would come to you with her accent and talking with you. And my grandmother would walk through there, and they'd call her the mayor, my mom's mom. She would sit in the back, and when she would come through, she would have to talk to 70 people on the way out. And then somebody would be like, if my grandmother didn't say hello, it would be like, why did you not say hello? She was shaking hands with everybody. And just, she's just caught, holding court essentially. So I would say ham and cheese omelet, ham and cheese and broccoli. And then I would have to say, to kind of go with that on the side of it, I'm going to go bagel I'm going to go sandwich like you, but I would have to be in New York City.
Yeah.
I want an egg I always so I never knew about egg bagels. Then I go to New York City, I find out about egg bagels. Then I go to New York City a few years ago. I went to Long Island and I found out about egg everything bagels.
Yeah, everything bagel.
And I always get the walnut raisin cream cheese. And you'll never see me eat cream cheese the entire year except for the whipped cream cheese inside of an egg everything bagel from New York City.
Well played.
And
Well
so the way
played.
it smells, oh my gosh. For lunch, I can equal you that the Brooklyn pickle is a frequent for me. I'm gonna go back in the day, and I'm gonna go to my elementary school, Our Lady of Pompeii, that was not too far from Lemoyne. And for whatever reason, the turkey subs at Our Lady of Pompeii are to this day better than any turkey sub in America. And I don't know what those lunch ladies did, but I love you all dearly. And if they serve turkey subs in heaven, I hope that they're the ones from Our Lady of Pompeii. And my dinner, oh man, I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna say my G Mama, my mom's meatballs that
Mm.
tasted good without sauce.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say my mom makes so many good things, but I'm gonna say my mom's turkey rolled, which is like a mini Thanksgiving. And I'm gonna say my other grandma's chicken noodle soup with, yeah, I'm gonna say her chicken noodle soup with bow ties and veal. I mean, I come from an Italian Hispanic family, so my food is really really good. But yeah, I guess I would say all of that. I think that covers my bases.
What? That's great. And of course, both of us for dessert, we're having DT Dolphins.
Oh yes, absolutely. 1
Thanks
million
to
percent.
Jay.
By the way, Bob,
Thanks
that
to
makes
Jay.
me feel good too because we did that Sunday, and then I'll go in on a random whatever day because it's available 7 days a week right down the road from Lemoyne. So I'm at Carvel DeWitt, and I walk in and I'll say, can I grab a DT Dolphin? And they don't look at the sign, they don't do anything. They just start making it. And I looked at my dad. I go, do you know what that means? I said that means people are getting them. So the
That's
DT
it's
Dolphin,
terrific.
yeah. Well,
I'm like I want one right now. Like I want to drive 3 hours to get one right now, and I'm still bouncing back and forth from Syracuse to Olean. So I'm gonna stop in and see Jay and pay a visit and grab a DT Dolphin the next time I'm back. I
well,
just wish it wasn't 3 hours away because I'd get one right now.
I'm telling you this. When you come back, we'll have to get one together.
Awesome.
That's fair.
Can't wait. I can't wait. I'll bring you a sweatshirt and we'll go get a DT Dolphin.
Yeah, sounds fair to me. And you know what else is good too is when you eat ice cream and you put a sweatshirt on, you have cushion. You have you have room to grow. So I my final question for you, Bob. Gosh, I last time you were on the show, I called you the best mentor that I've ever had. So I want to know your best mentor.
Wow. I learned a lot from you, Dan. So you've been a mentor to me as much as maybe I have to you. I don't know that been a mentor to you. Uh, I, Earlier in my career, I'll page it back. I had incredible mentors at West Point. I really did. But the person that gave me a start in this industry, no one's going to know his name. It was Carl Ulrich, and he was the athletic director at West Point that hired me, and became the executive director of the Patriot League. I try to model my leadership style after Mr. Ulrich. And he recently passed away about 2 years ago in his 90s. He retired in like 9 different times. He kept doing other jobs. But I'll tell you who this person was. This was the person that would come back at 2 in the morning and pass through the West Point gates. And where the MPs were manning the gates, he would always reach into his cooler and hand them a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or something. And he always had that. He would be at Mikey Stadium on a football Saturday at 5:30 in the morning, and then at 8:30 on a Saturday night when the softball team would play because they couldn't play their non-championship segments during football games, they would play late. He would be there with his wife Becky at 8:30 at night, bundled up in a blanket, knowing every student athlete by name, every one. And I've tried and I can't do it. And we had 1,000 of them at West Point, and he knew them all.
Yeah.
I never saw him not know a student athlete's name. So I failed horribly in trying to match Mr. Ulrich in terms of the recognition and the name retention. But just treating people well, treating people right. He's the kind. Now he could be tough. He could be really tough. He was a tremendous executive, but servant leader with a a heart filled with gratitude. I will always, he traveled up from Carolina to Cape Cod when I received an award 15 years ago and just showed up. And I'd been like gone for, we hadn't worked together in 3 decades, 2 decades.
Yeah.
Just kind of person that he was. So if I could somehow, some way be emblematic of what and try to model his behavior, his leadership style, that's what I try to do. Carl Ulrich, just an unbelievable human being. Just salt of the earth people.
Well, with that being said, a great way to honor a great man, and I'm happy to be connected to him through you. You're one of those people that if you speak highly of someone, to me that gives a lot of credibility to that person, in my opinion, even if I've never met them. So, Bob Beretta, St. Bonaventure University Vice President and Director of Athletics, it is my pleasure, is my honor to be able to speak with you and to always have time. And I can't thank you enough for everything. And like I told you when you made the decision to head to St. Bonaventure, I said we've only just begun. And I firmly believe that. There's right off my shoulder Floyd Little, who I never thought I would meet, let alone shake his hand, let alone get his autograph, let alone consider him a friend. And right over my shoulder, his book Promises to Keep. And so you talk about books in your studio or in your office, and he would tell me, and he would always echo this, one of his favorite lines from poetry: "There's miles to go before I sleep, and promises to keep." So we've only just begun. I look forward to what that means. And, Bob, I never say goodbye to you because I can only simply say see you later. I know how busy you are, and I know that I run around, but just so you know, you're always thought of, and there's genuinely not a single day that goes by that I don't think to myself, like, oh, I want to text Bob and tell him that. So, or pick your brain, or get your advice, or have you kick my butt and say, how can I be better in this? So I will say see you later, as I always do, but I also do want to tell you that I want to come over to Olean, and I'd love to be able to see the campus with you and to get to see where one of my closest friends, where my brother, and where my mentor has called home and continues to call home. And I'm happy for Jen, I'm happy for Julia, and I'm happy for you. And I really can't say enough, except for the fact that, as I've told you before, you're stuck with me. And I told you that a long time ago.
Well, it's hardly a cross to bear. If I want someone in a foxhole with me for life, you're the guy, and we'll get a chance to work together again soon. I'm sure of that. You have an open invitation to come up here to Olean and visit our beautiful campus. I'd be too proud to walk around. Can't wait to have you here for a basketball game. Our environment is just off the charts. It's crazy. You've been so impactful in my life at a time where I came to Syracuse and didn't know a lot of people, and met you through Gina, and had an instant connection, and someone I knew would be a lifelong friend along this journey. And it's you're fortunate if you can count a couple of people in that category in life, and I found that out, and you're certainly on that list for me, and I'm blessed to call you a lifelong friend and have someone with me riding the highs and the lows, because we both have plenty of those. We all do. And it's equally important, that consistency that I have with you as a friend, no matter what. I know I can count on you, and I know you can count on me. So we'll be together again. Happy to jump on any time that you may want. I don't know that we'll have any more Woj bombs to drop, but hopefully there'll be some good news stories coming out of Olean, and I'll be happy to share them. So thankful to all the people in Syracuse. I miss the community. I miss the people there. It was profoundly impactful for me. It was my first opportunity to lead a program, and that community, it was just fantastic. I met so many unbelievable people. I'm going to give Mark Wattis a shout out, because he introduced me to so many people in that community, and it's always going to hold a place near and dear to my heart. And I can't wait. We host the Dolphins here. Unfortunately it's November 16th, so I can't come back to your celebration. But we have the Dolphins coming in here, and I'll be conflicted. I'll be conflicted. But Nate Champion remains a really good friend of mine, and as do all our coaches back at Lemoyne. So I can't thank you enough, Dan, for your friendship, for your professionalism, for your caring, the opportunity to come and spend so much time with you as we did here today to tell our story. And I can't wait to see what the next future chapter in the future for us holds. And it'll be bold. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Yeah. If I know anything, the best is yet to come when it comes to you and I. And I can say this as a proud grandson and grandnephew of World War II veterans who all came home. My great uncle Pat, who passed away within the last couple of years at 99 years old, who was in the Air Force. I'm going to try to not get emotional. My great uncle Vincent, who fought in Japan in the Army. My great uncle Bucky, who was in the Army and was captured and put into Auschwitz and somehow made it out of one of the, if not the worst concentration camp held by Nazi Germany. To my great uncle Carmen in the Navy, and my grandfathers, both of them. And one in the Navy, my mom's dad, and one in the Army, my dad's dad. And the overwhelming understanding that they put their lives on the line. And if they didn't make it home, there's no Debbie and Ralph, my parents. And if there's no them, there's no me. And so my entire family owes a debt of gratitude to God that not only did one of them come back, but every single one of them came back. And I hold them dear and true. And there are pieces of my grandfather's all over my studio. And there's something that has been with me since I went off to college. And if you could give me a second here to just show these stare at me every show. So this is my grandpa Tortora's, this is a forklift that was put in his cake. After he served in the United States Army, he decided to, he did different things, but he worked at Miller Brewing Company. I still remember the picnic when Miller Brewing Company was in Syracuse. I remember the picnic, and when he retired, I was standing off to his left, and we were in his house. And he took this out of his cake, and it had ice cream on the wheels. And my grandmother, I think she said, she's like, wipe the wheels off, Ralph, or this or that. And he looked at me, and she's like, don't give him the icing. And she was here, and then he looked over at me, and it had icing all over it, and he handed it to me. And so this is something that I always took to keep him top of mind. I mean, he always is, and that's always staring at me. And then this is my grandpa Tortora, or my grandpa Cavino, pardon me. This is his naval hat from World War II. It's hard to see, but it says T.A. Cavino for Thomas Archibald Cavino. And so his actual worn Navy hat sits here too. So whenever I'm on the air, I have a picture of Jesus right next to me here, and I have my grandfather's right in front of me. So, like I said, relationships are important, and the effect that you have on people it's the best thing you can give the world is how you can affect people in a positive way. So you've said a lot of nice things to me, Bob, but they go back to you 100-fold. And, I can learn a lot from you. I have learned a lot from you. I'm excited about that. I mean, you're a person who keeps your word. You're someone that I can rely on. And in a world where trust seems fleeting, you are a place where I actually believe that I have one of the, if on a very short list of the most consistent things in my life. So I can't say enough about the fact that I've put my trust in a lot of things. I put my time, I put my effort, I've put my love, and I put my generosity and my care into a lot of different things, a lot of relationships. The one place that I've deposited from the beginning and never have been weary or questioned that deposit is into our relationship. So for everything that you've done, like I said, which is far more than what I've done, I thank you for. And for being somebody that has reminded me that in a world that seems all too chaotic and crazy, there are people that you can genuinely put your energy and your time into and you will never regret it. That's you. So I look forward to what's to come.
Yeah, well, I can't wait, Dan. And again, thanks for the opportunity. And I can't wait for us to continue this journey together.
Amen.